Defense News. It's proudly sponsored by Navy Federal Credit Union. If you're a member of our nation's armed forces, the Department of Defense, or if your family is, we'd be proud to serve you too.
On this episode of Defense News Weekly, the Army gains its first active duty female sniper. Learn about the woman who just made history. And a defense company unveils an eye-catching reusable armed drone meant to hunt down uncrewed threats and take them out. We get a look at the Roadrunner. Plus, new health treatment options for vets. We look at sound therapy. Also, we speak with one of this year's Pinups for Vets models. Hear from a Navy veteran on the experience of working with the charity. Finally, the cost of caring for a military veteran with health problems is significantly higher than that of civilians. We talk with an expert on a new study that unpacks the numbers. With the latest in news and analysis from the Pentagon to the platoon, this is Defense News Weekly. Welcome back to Defense News Weekly. I'm Andrea Scott. We start this week with news from around the military. First up, Alabama Republican Senator Tommy Tuberville this week dropped his nearly 10-month hold on hundreds of senior military promotions amid mounting pressure from congressional colleagues. Both Democratic and Republican representatives had called Tuberville's blockade a danger to national security after he unilaterally held up advancement of top military officials over the Pentagon's abortion policy. For more on this story, we go to Military Times' Leo Shane on Capitol Hill.
The Senate this week moved ahead with 422 military nominations that had been stalled for almost 10 months because of the ongoing protests by Senator Tommy Tuberville of Alabama. He's been protesting the Defense Department's abortion access policy, which allows troops to travel across state lines to get abortion services and to get travel stipends and time off if they need that. Now, he's been saying that's an illegal policy. He had blocked nearly every senior military nomination since February because of his concerns about that. But this week he said his protest is over, that he believes he made his point, even if the policy hasn't been changed. Senate Democrats have called the move a publicity stunt, and Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has said that he's relieved that this is over and he hopes that everyone learns the lessons they can from this failed protest.
In regards to Tuberville, finally lifting his unnecessary and harmful holds on our nation's military officials, I'm happy that we can finally move forward and give these men and women the promotions they deserve. I plan to move these promotions as soon as possible. I hope no one does this again. And I hope they learn the lesson of Senator Tuberville. And that is, he held out for many, many months, hurt our national security, caused discombobulation to so many military families who have been so dedicated to our country, and didn't get anything that he wanted.
Now, the 422 folks who were approved this week will be getting into their new leadership posts in the next few days and the next few weeks. Defense Department has said that while everything is active right now, it may take some time to move these folks around, given the large amount of people involved. There are still 23 senior military officers who haven't been approved, who are still subject to holds in the Senate. It's unclear what's going to happen with them in the next few days and the next few weeks. The Senate can force some of those votes through, maybe move them even before the end of the year. But for now, everyone's breathing a sigh of relief that most of these folks are moving ahead, that the military families affected can move ahead with their lives, and that the military can get back to normal operations for the first time in 10 months. For Military Times, I'm Leo Shane.
It would be fair to say that, as much as anyone, Army Sergeant Masael Hay has shot to the top. In November, Hay became the first ever female active duty Army sniper, after completing the force's rigorous qualification course. Following a childhood practicing with firearms on her family's ranches in Oregon and California, Hay joined the Army and found a talent for sharpshooting. She said, quote, "A close friend of mine told me I'd never make it in the Army, and there's no way I could become a sniper. But now that I look back at it, I really do appreciate the motivation." Hay completed sniper school on November 3rd to make history and become the Army's first active duty woman sniper. In eye-catching news from weapons systems development, drone maker Anduril Industries unveiled a new reusable drone called the Roadrunner. The small unmanned munition is rocket-powered and able to carry a range of munitions for different mission sets. But if it isn't required to take out a target, it can land and be reused. Though Anduril took the wrapper off the Roadrunner to the public recently, company officials said it's been in development for 2 years and is headed into low-rate production for a U.S. customer. Who is that customer? Anduril wouldn't say, but we'll keep an eye out for news as it develops. And in more development news, the Pentagon's Chief Technology Officer said the U.S. plans to start joint testing hypersonic systems with Australia as soon as 2024. Heidi Shyu, Undersecretary of Defense for Research and Engineering, told reporters December 2nd at the Reagan National Defense Forum that the countries have been deepening their partnership on hypersonics over the past year. Advancement of hypersonic tech is one of the pillars of a joint agreement with the US, United Kingdom, and Australia, known as AUKUS. Other areas of collaboration include nuclear submarine development and quantum computing. The US and Australia have a history of working together on high-level military projects and have gotten closer as the Pentagon looks to counter potential threats from China in the Pacific. If you're taking care of a veteran with health issues, you may be spending a lot more than your civilian counterparts. A new study from AARP and the National Alliance for Caregiving shows that military and veteran caregivers spend, on average, some $11,500 for caregiving each year. That is 1.5 times more than other caregivers do. According to the study, more than 6.5 million veteran and military caregivers provide some $14 billion in unpaid labor every year. The National Director of AARP's Veterans and Military Families Initiative sat down with Daniel Woolfolk recently to tell us more about what caregivers face.
For a long time, we have heard that veteran caregivers, compared to their civilian caregiver counterparts, are spending more out of pocket, given different conditions and unique circumstances that veterans themselves coming home are experiencing. And so we put it to the test that AARP has what we call more general consumer civilian data that came out in 2021 that found that for family caregivers, what they were spending on civilian counterpart care recipients, it was around $7,200 per year. But when we drilled down into the veteran population, we came up with this information most recently going into this November's Veterans and Military Families Appreciation Month, and found that what's the veteran caregiver is pulling out of his or her pocket to care for their loved one, it's actually 1.5 times the amount of those civilian caregivers. It jumps from $7,200 up to $11,500. That's quite a dramatic increase. And again, it comes back to the unique circumstances that those veteran and military caregivers are facing on a regular basis.
And that is indeed a big increase. What are you seeing military and veterans caregivers spending their money on that brings that cost so much higher?
A great question. In fact, as part of the webcast that we did with the Elizabeth Dole Foundation this week, we even asked that question, and we have a sample size there where it's not scientific, but we did get immediate feedback on what veteran military caregivers are spending their money on, and it breaks down into 3 categories. One are the basic necessities: rent, mortgage, groceries, utilities. That by and large was the #1 expense where they needed to pull money out of their pockets so that they could continue to provide care for their loved one. The next on the list was for a home health aide or a personal care attendant. That is, quite frankly, just so that the caregiver could get a little bit of respite relief, because if the caregiver, him or herself, can't take care of themselves, they certainly can't take care of their loved one. And then last, and certainly not least on the list, was transportation expenses. We all know about the high cost of gas prices and other means to try to get from point A to point B. And what veteran military caregivers told us most recently is that it's to be able to fill the tank up, to get to and from medical appointments, to run errands for their care recipient, and last but not least, to be able to get their care recipient to and from different locations for just regular day-to-day type errands.
When we come back, a look at alternative healing options for veterans. And later, we speak with Miss October from the annual Pinups for Vets calendar. Welcome back. Alternative therapy and treatment methods are a widening area of care for veterans and service members. Canvassing everything from psychedelics to dog therapy, options are expanding for those looking for something other than a therapist's office. At the inaugural MCON conference in Las Vegas, Military Times editor and Marine veteran John Simpkins visited the Calm Clinic to try out new methods of potential treatment.
All right, so I'm here with Dr. Sam Xand of the Calm Clinic. Dr. Sam, if you could talk to me a little bit about what the Calm Clinic does, how it got started, briefly, just go through that.
Yeah, so I'm a psychiatrist and really trying to bring healing to the community in a way that we haven't really traditionally seen. I think we overdiagnose, we overprescribe in psychiatry, and what we're doing is bringing more holistic elements, innovative measures like ketamine therapy, vibroacoustic healing, and just recognizing that there are so many other strategies that we can tap into to improve our mental wellness.
Now, obviously, that's such a prevalent conversation in the veteran community. How much work do you do with veterans yourself, or how much work does the Calm Clinic do? And what have you seen? Obviously, so many veterans have dealt with opioid issues, just with pain management, post-traumatic stress, whatever it might be. What have you seen through your clinic in terms of the results of ketamine?
Sure. So I actually did my training at the VA hospital here in Las Vegas, and a community that obviously needs so much healing, a little bit more attention, and changing the conversation around addressing our mental health. I think we go into this work thinking there's something wrong with us and we have to fix ourselves, we have these problems, and that's not true. We all have a mental health journey. So our program works with vets to meet them where they are, whatever it might be, and not categorize everybody in a box. I think doing this work with a sense of warmth and compassion and love, it brings a different flavor. It's not just everybody's a number and turnstile care. We really customize the approach for our community.
It's fantastic. Now, one of the things that we have talked about behind us is there is a sound therapy that sometimes is used in conjunction with this, and we're about to demo that shortly. So, Sam, I appreciate it, and we're going to take this for a spin.
So yeah, I'm here with Calm Clinic because what I do really, I think, works complementary to what the Calm Clinic provides for their patients and clients. And so what I brought here today is a little ambient kind of sound healing oasis to create a getaway and to allow people to come in and experience the power of sound and vibration. How was that?
Excellent.
Awesome.
That's excellent. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
John, what did you feel there?
A lot more of a relaxation in my extremities, kind of like almost a borderline numbness, but like a very pleasant. I think the vibration, and yeah, I'm just a naturally tense person. So I think having that brief period of just kind of almost feeling like you're sinking to within yourself, outstanding. Okay, so we spoke a little bit about ketamine therapy and this being used sometimes in conjunction with it, maybe after the therapy. Can you talk about what that does in conjunction with that therapy, and what is somebody feeling as they go through this sound bath oasis that you just put me through?
Right. Well, I think it's really good for either before a ketamine treatment or after. Before, because it's really effective way to quickly calm the body and the mind, and to prepare you for just a deeper sense of relaxation and preparation for whatever it is you're going to embark on from a mental standpoint.
Yeah.
And it's really good after a ketamine session because you need that space and time to be able to integrate the experience. And listening to music, especially very tonal music, rich with overtones and drones and soundscapes, it really helps us kind of integrate a deeper sense of calm as we integrate the experience and reemerge back into our waking self. So it's very supportive in that way.
Now, what is this type of therapy? What does somebody experience physically as they go through this? Now, I had my own unique experience, but is that a common theme with this type of therapy, or what does somebody, say like a veteran who's going through this therapy, experience from the start to the finish of it?
So that's a great question. I actually I've worked with veterans for years in the same exact format with these sub-pack units and headphones, and so it would be about an 8 to 12 minute live orchestration of sounds, and the sounds are unfolding and emerging and layering and creating these new rich kind of tonal fields, I call them. And by the time it's done, I close the sound session and everyone opens their eyes and they just immediately look so rested, and they look youthful and almost like childlike and grateful. They're smiling, they're happy.
I mean, I think I experienced some the tip of the iceberg when it came to that, and it absolutely kind of made me want to dive in for a much more in-depth look into it. So Torquil, I appreciate it. Thank you for having us out. Yeah, thank you.
When we return, our personal finance expert is back with advice for newlyweds on managing joint finances. Stay tuned. Welcome back. On this edition of Money Minute, Navy Federal Credit Union personal finance expert Jeanette Mack talks about financial changes to consider when tying the knot.
According to U.S. wedding statistics, about 2.3 million couples get married every year. If you're one of them, congrats, you've survived one of the most expensive events of your life. But the finance management doesn't end at the wedding. It's just the beginning of a journey you and your partner should be prepared for. Now that you're a family unit, it doesn't mean your individual goals go away. You both need to feel financially independent while also planning for a future of combined savings and purchases that'll become the foundation of your lives. Things like having a family, taking trips, buying homes, retiring, and every little milestone along the way. So be sure the two of you are aligned with what that picture looks like and how you're going to get there. Keep your goals reachable. Yes, you need to save, but you also need to live. So build a budget that allows you to cut down or pay off debt, save and spend smartly, and if you can, build in some fun money. Your finances should be able to withstand all of life's ups and downs. As time goes by, your income and your budget will change, hopefully for the better, so make the necessary adjustments that can ensure you're doing the things that can help make your combined dreams come true.
Thanks, Jeanette. We'll see you next week. To get more coverage of military and defense topics, pop open a browser and navigate over to militarytimes.com. as well as defensenews.com. And to be the smartest butter bar in the barracks, sign up for our Early Bird Brief newsletter, compiled each morning to bring you the latest headlines. It's also in audio. Check out the podcast version out each weekday wherever you get your podcasts. And if social media is where you get your open source intelligence, follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and X, formerly known as Twitter. We also just fired up a brand new TikTok account that has lots of custom content, so go check that out. And stick around. After the break, we talk to a Navy vet turned pinup model about posing for an annual charity calendar. Welcome back to Defense News Weekly. I'm Andrea Scott. The annual Pinups for Vets program takes an old idea and puts a new spin on it. Each year, 12 women veterans are chosen for a themed calendar, with the proceeds from sales going to veterans' causes. We spoke with this year's October model, a Navy veteran who served for 23 years. Here's some of the highlights from that conversation. Thank you so much for joining us, Gail.
Thank you so much for having me.
You are the Pinups for Vets Miss October. tell us, for those who don't know, what is Pinup for Vets and what is being a pinup model?
Well, Pinups for Vets is a nonprofit organization started by Gina Elise. This is actually her 18th year publishing a calendar. And their main mission is to boost morale for our veterans here, our deployed soldiers and troops, even their family members. So elated to be part of the organization to actually continue service after service.
So all the pinup models are veterans, correct?
They are,
Okay.
yes. And this year, all of us add up to 150 years of service.
So how did you get involved in Pinups for Vets?
After seeing all the great work they were doing, I was following them on social media, also following them through all the different news outlets. I reached out for consideration, and I got the call about 6 weeks later to be featured as one of the pinups for the 2024 calendar.
So these are 12 veterans, female veterans, who go and you did a photo shoot, you had to learn how to do your hair. Tell us about that.
Oh, no, so actually for 2024, there's 13 veterans. All our hair and makeup was done for us. Our outfits were selected. This year we got to do it in a classic car museum to stay in the theme of the 50s era.
And then what sort of outreach do you guys do as pinups?
So as a pinup, even after the photo shoot, we still continue all our outreach programs. We reach out to different veterans hospitals, facilities, homes. We go out and visit the veterans that are there, spend some time, and bond with them and exchange stories.
Tell me a little bit about your time in the Navy. Why did you join the Navy?
Both my grandparents were in the armed forces in the Philippines, and they would tell me their war stories, and every time they always came back to what an honor it was to fight alongside the U.S. Armed Forces. And growing up, that was always like in the back of the mind that I wanted to be part of that. We always say, land of the free, home of the brave. I wanted to be one of the brave. I hope I'm making them proud by serving in the U.S. Armed Forces that they've been so proud to fight alongside.
You did 23 years in the Navy.
Yes,
What did you do in the Navy?
I did 23 years total, active duty and reserve. Active duty side, I was an electronic warfare technician. I was stationed on board the USS John Hancock, a Spruance-class destroyer. And then when I entered reserves, I cross-rated to intelligence specialist.
And you were one of the first females on your ship, right? Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes. So when I first checked on board, I was the first wave of females to be on the ship. The ship had just recently been outfitted to accept females. I think at the time there was maybe 12 to 14 of us before we deployed to the Mediterranean.
What is the most important thing about being a veteran?
When you meet another veteran, you have that common bond. It doesn't matter when you served, what branch you served in, what your job was. It's like automatically when you're going to a veteran event or when we're visiting different hospitals and facilities, automatically you're like, they know what you went through, you know what they went through, and you share that common bond and you share those stories of like what you did back then versus what's being done now.
As Miss October, what is the message that you would give other service members or veterans?
I would say we appreciate you. We appreciate the time that you took to serve your country, that you answered your call. I did the same thing. So I do understand what you went through, and thank you. It's just really to show our gratitude for everything that they've done for us, for this country.
And you were out in California with the other pinups for
Yes.
Veterans Day week. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So I just returned from California with a weekend full of events. We attended a gala to get the word out more about Pinups for Vets and what we do. And then the next day we visited Southern California Veterans Home. It was a really big veterans celebration. We danced with some of the residents there, signed the calendars, got to speak with them, talk to them, heard their stories, exchange stories. It was extremely fulfilling to see the smiles on their faces and the gratitude, and so many of them coming up to us saying, thank you for coming to visit, thank you for talking to me. Like small gestures like that really make a difference.
And how can somebody get the 2024 calendar or get involved if they're interested?
Oh, well, so if anyone was interested in supporting Pinups for Vets, you can go to their website, pinupsforvets.com. You can also purchase a calendar or merchandise, and the funds raised from the online store help us support all the programs and outreach and morale boosters for all the vets. Not only vets, but the troops overseas. We create care packages. We also do makeovers for some of the spouses and other female veterans as well.
And that's all we have time for in this episode. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next week.